All right, what's up, guys? Coming back, another episode of the Sports Brotherhood. I'm talking some Hawkeyes today. I got Jordan Garrettson and Brendan Stiles with me today, so definitely appreciate you guys swinging by.
Thanks for having us on.
Happy to be on.
For sure. So, the Hawks, man. What I don't exactly know what to think of that. They lost 23-21 to North Dakota State. So I guess we'll just jump right on in. Jordan, if you can start off. I know we were kind of mentioning a second ago before we started that you kind of made a Facebook post that said like, I kind of maybe thought that it could have happened. So what did you see out there that was kind of on par with what you thought might happen? And then, why did you think that we ended up ultimately losing that?
Well, as you alluded to, it wasn't, it was kind of something I guess I would just describe it as a lingering feeling all week. And even coming into the season, you knew that game was going to be on the schedule and it was going to be a tricky one before the Big Ten schedule started. And I mean, probably by far the best non-conference team that Iowa played this season. And obviously we saw why today, but while I thought they definitely had a chance to beat Iowa coming in, the thing that surprised me that I wasn't necessarily expecting is the way that Iowa was kind of physically dominated a lot of the times today. That was like, I mean, if there's one hallmark of Iowa football, it's, beating the other team up front on generally both sides of the line, but especially the offensive line. And that didn't happen today. And that, I mean, I was just looking at the numbers and that doesn't tell the whole story, but a lot of the numbers tell a story that says North Dakota State controlled the line a lot better. I mean, 239 yards rushing while Iowa only had 34. I mean, that's incredible to me. You're never, especially for a fantasy coach team, that's going to be a loss. It's kind of amazing there was only a 2-point loss given those statistics. So I think the discrepancy up front was one of the things that stood out to me big time.
Brendan, what about you? What do you got?
I have to agree with what Jordan said, but before I get into that, I would just say that I personally am surprised that they lost this game. Not because I didn't think North Dakota State was good or capable enough, because clearly they've shown over the last 5 years that they're as good of a program as there is at the FCS level. But what I ultimately thought would be the case is that Iowa would have the depth and would eventually be able to wear down the Bison in the second half. And instead, it was the exact opposite of what actually happened at Kinnick Stadium today. To Jordan's point about the trenches, the O-line and D-line play was actually the one or maybe the two areas of concern I had with Iowa coming into this season, because when you look at the O-line, they lost Austin Blythe, they lost Jordan Walsh, and, those are the two spots that they had injuries with James Daniels and Sean Walsh today. Those came back to rear their ugly head, if you will. And then you look at the defensive line, you're still trying to figure out who exactly you're going to be playing up front. Obviously, we know how good Jaleel Johnson is, but it seemed like the rotations were out of sync with that, and it just didn't seem like they were getting enough of a push. And you saw it there on the final drive. North Dakota State, they're able to get a QB draw, design play, and their guy goes 29 yards up the middle. Suddenly they're in Iowa's territory and well within and getting close to field goal range and setting it up for their kicker to win it. So to me, I think that is definitely a huge issue and something that I thought would become a huge issue as the season progressed, but it ended up showing itself a lot earlier than I anticipated.
Yeah, I think you guys really, hit the nail on the head on both of those. Obviously, Jordan, you mentioned the line of scrimmage, just getting dominated on both sides. Like, it's crazy. And Brendan, you mentioned that, we had the injuries on offense, we're losing people on defense, and kind of that Miami of Ohio game, it was kind of like, what's going on? Why are we getting killed on the ground? And we were thinking, okay, we don't have Josie Jewell. Like, obviously, middle linebacker is going to get everyone lined up. That's quarterback of the defense. But, there really may be some merit to that it may be something that we need to really watch going forward. And that doesn't typically happen. So that's something that's, a little strange. 239 yards. We had the pick six that we'd given up just because Beathard just obviously didn't feel the blitz, didn't see it. And then obviously with 239 yards, you're going to lose the time of possession battle. And that was just weird. Like it was just weird. So, I mean, kind of saw some, coaching versus execution stuff on Twitter. I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. Do you think that it was more, hey, the offense was struggling, we weren't calling the right plays, or do you think it's something where it's like, you know what, we just got outplayed? Brendan, what do you think?
I think it's a little of both. And you mentioned the whole thing about them being outplayed. I think a prime example of that is not the drive that won the game for them, but the earlier drive where they scored the touchdown and ended up missing the 2-point conversion. It was a 15-play drive where they just basically dink and dunk went down the field and moved methodically. It was very reminiscent of what Michigan State did in the Big Ten championship game last year. And as far as the coaching aspect of it is concerned, it just didn't seem like Iowa ever really put itself in a position where it can, when it was ahead, to keep the game out of reach. There was a one play where LaShawn Daniels had the long run and it got called back because of a hold on George Kittle. But
heartbreaking.
Outside of that, there weren't really any opportunities where they really were able to step on North Dakota State's throat. And as a result, the Bison were able to hang around long enough to ultimately pull off the win.
You mentioned that Big Ten title game, and it's spot on. But the thing that's so crazy about it is we're talking Michigan State with an absolute beast. What was that? Leland Scott. And then North Dakota State, they won 5 straight. What is it? I was getting confused. FCS, correct?
Right.
5 straight FCS titles. That's awesome. I get it. You have to respect that. But there's still an FCS team. It's just so shocking that they were able to do that. We're supposed to have the depth on both sides of the ball. And I tweeted before the game that was like, hey, with our depth, it was, 80-some degrees, a little humid. We should be able to wear them out. And it was just the total opposite. That was crazy. But, Jordan, what did you think? Do you think it was a mix, kind of a coaching little blunder, just people getting outplayed?
It's kind of a cop-out, but I kind of agree with Brendan. It's a little bit of both. I don't think I can pick one or the other. And kind of what you alluded to, I can't –
there, I think we froze up.
I can't put it all on the coaching. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Still there?
You there, Richie? Okay.
All right, good.
Okay.
All right, we'll edit that out. But yeah.
So, I mean, you can't put it all on one or the other. I mean, I would say this, CS program, we were, depending on what poll you're looking at, either the 11th or 13th ranked or whatever team in the country, a top 15 team in the country, by any means, regardless of how you feel about rankings at this point in the season. There's a clear talent disparity. There's especially a depth disparity. There's home field advantage. And no matter how bad the coaching is, really, if you lose to an FCS team and you're a strong FBS program like Iowa is, that means you got outplayed, and that's what happened. And I think that it's a little bit of both. I think I saw some tweets that Kirk Ferentz reverted to old Kirk today in some ways, and which is kind of funny, but also kind of true in some ways. And I think what kind of ignited that is kind of just that perfect storm in the first quarter. I mean, you couldn't have drawn up a better start for North Dakota State. We didn't step on their throat early or anything. Iowa didn't, they let them hang around, which, wasn't surprising. Like we said, we expect North Dakota State to be competitive. But the longer you do that and you let them hang around, the more they feel like they belong and they don't question themselves and they listen to their coach, Chris Kleiman, telling them that they can play with anyone in the country. And that's what they did today. And then we just kind of seemed a little tentative, playing it careful. I mean, I guess the only one thing specifically I could say I fault the coaching. I would like to see a little more Wadley today. I think he only had 4 or 5 carries, and I think one of the things that stood out to me about this game was North Dakota State looked like they belonged speed-wise and size-wise for the most part, but Wadley is someone who, I mean, no one on North Dakota State does belong physically on the field with that kind of guy, and I just think he maybe could have been more effective in a matchup like this, given how physical North Dakota State was. I don't think this is a team that we could. I mean, again, at the same time, maybe we should have been able to wear them out, though, but that's not what happened. So,
Yeah,
Richie, I can add one thing real quick. Just going off of what Jordan was saying there. The first half, North Dakota State's offense really didn't do anything. The one touchdown they got was on a pick six where Beathard got hit from his blind side, and the ball literally landed in MJ Stump's hands, and he ran in. The Bison were not really moving the ball at all offensively. When they were getting stopped. Iowa's defense was getting stops on third down. It was really in the second half they made adjustments, and that opening drive, you saw them go right down the field. They were able to tie the game. And from there, that I think gave North Dakota State a lot of confidence as far as the rest of the game is concerned, to the point that Jordan was making of where their coach was telling the team, hey, you know what? We belong on this stage. We're capable of beating this team. And that ended up coming to fruition for them.
Yeah, I thought, they started off really well. I mean, kind of touching on the fact that you said, they felt like they they felt like they belonged. And, I mean, that first play, I feel like it was like 20, 25 yards. They ran that play action boot, brought him out, on the corner, and I think it was hit the tight end. But I'm just looking at some of the drives here. I mean, they moved right down the field at first, and then obviously we got that lucky break with the snap. But
they really bailed Iowa out there on that
oh, yeah.
Drive.
And then, I mean, we get the ball, we go 3 and out, and then punt the ball to them. Then we get that pick, turn it right back over with a pick six. I'm looking at this. We had like 5 or 6 3 and outs that game, and not including the end of the first half. So it's just, we lose the time of possession. I think it was 37 to 23, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just like you just don't expect that. So I think that, you guys kind of said I don't want to say it's a cop-out saying that it's both. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, yeah, we probably could have brought Wadley in a little bit more, get him on the edge. I mean, he has some of the best feet that I've seen in an Iowa running back, and I don't even know how long. So it's just it's a little of that. It's a little of, hey, we just got our ass beat in the trenches. Like I don't know that I have an explanation for that besides, they wore us down, and I mean, just took it to us at the end of the game. So
I'll say this: I don't think it's going to be a very fun week of practice in Iowa City next week, especially for the linemen on both sides of the ball.
Then throw in the fact they're making a long flight to New Jersey too.
Yep.
Yeah, that's man. Didn't Rutgers? They looked kind of crappy today, didn't they? I didn't see the game, but.
Yeah, they ended up winning, but they got off to a slow start yet again.
I think as far as the Big Ten goes, it's about as good of a bounce-back game as you can get on the road, probably.
Well, and also to add to that, oddly enough, since Greg Davis and Phil Parker both came on board as coordinators for Iowa, the Hawkeyes have won all their Big Ten openers the last 4 years. So that's probably a good omen for them going into this Saturday. Plus, as you said, Richie, Rutgers isn't really a good team entering this game either, but it is on the road. It's going to be their first road game. And like Jordan was saying, it's going to be interesting now to see how this team responds after losing a game like this, that really they're going to just be reminded of this all year long, no matter what they accomplish going forward.
It's really funny that, there's so many complexities in football, so many just little nuances, but at the end of the day, it really does come down to you're remembered if you win or lose. 2009, you and I, Broderick Benz blocks a field goal, and we go and win an Orange Bowl that year. Like
right.
That, and then this year, it's the total opposite.
Yep.
And it's one of those things where it's when you're playing an FCS team and things like that, like there's no, it was a close game or anything. Like you're the 13th or 11th ranked team and you lose at home, like it's going to kill the rest of the possibilities for the rest of the season. I mean, obviously there's a lot left to play, but I just I don't know how, we fully get the taste out of our mouth even at the end of the season.
Well, I'll be shocked if they're in the top 25 tomorrow. I saw some people saying after the game they think that Iowa won't drop that far. I completely disagree. You saw what happened in Michigan when they lost to Appalachian State 9 years ago. They were fifth in the country going into that game. They completely fell out of the top 25 after that. And even though they ended up winning the Citrus Bowl and beating Tim Tebow in Florida that year, you still remember them for losing that game. And I think a similar pattern is now going to happen here with Iowa, where no matter what the Hawkeyes managed to accomplish, this is the game that everyone's going to remember.
It's a hit. I think more than anything else, it's kind of a hit for the brand, right? I mean, as far as what you can play for this season, there's still plenty. I mean, unless you really thought obviously Iowa had a chance just like anyone else. They were going to win the national title. That's lost. Everything as far as the Big Ten is still in play, but that's going to linger no matter what happens. Like, you just look at last year, a big narrative, or at least there was a strong contingent of fans and pundits that thought Iowa was a pretender. And that was basically, I don't know how you want to put it. I mean, that was basically, confirmed for them come the Rose Bowl time last year, whether that's,
right,
at fair or accurate or not. And like you said, Richie, the bottom line is it's an FCS team. It doesn't matter how good they are. You're supposed to handle your business against an FCS team. I will throw this out there, though. Just looking at Iowa's schedule, I mean, is North Dakota State going to be the best team Iowa plays until Wisconsin?
Quite possibly. Maybe.
You could argue that.
It might be up in the air, but I can see that.
You could definitely, I think there's a conversation to be had, at least, which is kind of like, that was an impressive team today, but bottom line is you got to handle your business against the FCS squad at home.
So you guys think that maybe we get, I don't want to call it sympathy, but I mean, if the pollsters look at that and really, take that rationale that, hey, this is a legitimately good team, maybe we don't get punished as much. I mean, I'm with you, Brendan. I don't think we stay in the top 25, but I mean, just trying to reach for some optimism somewhere. Maybe they look at that and they say, hey, just because they're not playing elite competition, every week. I mean, it could be, but I mean, it's going to be tough.
It's not. If they're still ranked tomorrow, I will be absolutely shocked.
For some reason, my feeling is I wouldn't be shocked. I don't predict that they will be, but I do think just the difference between, say, the Appalachian State Michigan situation. What year was that? That was 06 or
07.
Okay.
07?
Okay. I think the perception and the knowledge of FCS has grown since then, and the FCS has improved the top of it. And North Dakota State's, quite frankly, unlike anything we've really seen.
That's fair.
I don't know, but I mean, that takes a number of voters, to understand that.
People nationwide that see exactly what you guys are just talking about. That, they're FCS, that they're going to drop them.
And that's what the majority of people are going to say, right? Because they're, the casual fan that doesn't understand what North Dakota State is. And again, this isn't excusing Iowa by any means, but you see it on the bottom line. You see North Dakota State and you don't know anything about them. You think it's a joke. So.
And that, Jordan, you mentioned this a minute or two ago. John Miller tweeted that, where he essentially said, we have these opportunities to really catapult ourselves in that legitimacy of that national brand. And I don't want to sound too critical here, but it just seems like every single time that we start building, and we're building that momentum, and 2009 we won Orange Bowl, 2010 we return all our players, and then I think it was like 9-4. So it's just like we have these, climb, and then we'll have the occasional major slip up. And it's not the end of the year, obviously, but it's just something to where these are the games that, like, recruits remember. Like, man, I don't know if I want to go to Iowa. They lost to North Dakota State. I'm going to go to Wisconsin or Michigan or Ohio State, whatever the case is. And it's just, it gives the Colin Cowards, I cannot stand him.
That's all I can think of today.
It gives them ammunition. It drives me crazy because they're just shock jock. I'm going to say outlandish stuff and glance at a schedule and call it what it is, even though, call it what they think it is, and it just gives them ammunition. So
right. And as annoying as those kind of hot takes can be, I mean, as far as it goes this season, you have no credible argument to dispute that
Yep.
if he wants to make that argument on Monday. So you beat a terrible Iowa State team and you beat Miami, Ohio, and you lost to an FCS team.
Yep.
You haven't accomplished a thing.
Right. And the other thing, too, now is as far as what Iowa has going forward, I would look at it like this, as bad as this might sound. They have winning the Big Ten and going to the Rose Bowl again. And I say that because the Rose Bowl is clearly not part of the playoff. Right. This is one of those situations where continuing with this conversation, let's say Iowa hypothetically did win the Big Ten championship game. And let's say this is the only game they lose all season. Everyone's going to be like, yeah, you only have one loss, but it was to an FCS team. That could be the ammunition that keeps them out of the playoff.
And that hurts. And that hurts the whole conference too. Really,
yep.
if that were the case, where you have Iowa finishing, at the top of the conference, or even winning the conference, or at least making the Big Ten championship game again, that just when you have a team that is beating everyone else in the conference but lost to North Dakota State, it kind of reflects poorly on everyone.
Wisconsin, they barely hung on. Was that Georgia Southern?
Georgia State.
Yes.
That was like a 34-point spread or something like that. That wasn't supposed to be a close game. Ours wasn't supposed to be close, but it was at least supposed to be competitive.
We have those little scares every now and then, but it's just I didn't think that even if it was poorly coached or whatever, or some execution, you would think that we would have been able to overcome that. I want to say it was the end of the first half. We had just back-to-back drops on wide-open plays that just kind of the LaShawn Daniel hold, which may have been a little picky, but it's just you have those lapses and you let a team hang in there, and at the end we just couldn't make a play. So what do you guys think? Obviously, we've said this. There's tons of football left to play. Is this something where at the end of the year, Brendan, you said that this could keep us out of the playoffs. But if we're looking at this realistically, is that something that you think is practical? Is this something where at the end of the year we're going to be playing for a top ranking?
No. Well, see, I threw that out there because that at this point is going to be your best case scenario. I personally didn't coming into the season, unless you thought Iowa was going to go 12-0 again. Which I don't know how you could, because that was literally what they had last season, was a once in a century kind of year. Unless that was your mindset coming into this year, you probably are going to think, well, they're going to lose at least a few more games this season. They might still win the Big Ten West, and I think that that's definitely something that can be accomplished still, considering they have Wisconsin and Nebraska both coming to Kinnick Stadium. But let's say they do get back to Indianapolis. They're playing in Michigan, or they're for a second time, or they're playing in Ohio State. Do you really see this team beating either of them based off what you saw today?
It would take an effort, not even an effort. It would take the circumstances that happened today. We'd have to get either a defensive or a special teams touchdown. We'd have to win the time possession, and we just have the ball just bounce our way. So it not likely, but.
Yeah. So, I guess what I'm getting at is right now the best case scenario is, you could, what I said before, you could still win the Big Ten, but now you have a loss that could really damage your brand, as Jordan was saying, to the point where that could keep you out of the playoff if you're even in that position come December. But more realistically now, maybe it ends up being something like a Citrus Bowl or an Outback Bowl that ends up being your best case scenario.
I might be fine with the Outback Bowl. Citrus Bowl, I haven't grown accustomed to that. That hasn't been a Big Ten Bowl for too long, if I'm correct.
It's been one for a while.
What did it used to be called? Was that Capital One? And
it was Capital One. Yeah.
Okay. All right, my mistake. But yeah, Florida Bowl games, I'm always all right with a Florida Bowl game.
I think it's hard when it's just, Iowa came into the season with expectations. It's like you said with 2010. A lot of the team back from last year that obviously accomplished a great deal went to a Rose Bowl. Like in a vacuum, I think a Florida bowl game sounds pretty good with the context of the players they had, what they did last year. it's kind of more of a bittersweet situation. And I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here. We're only 3 games in. We're talking about a bowl game and how that would feel. But I mean, as far as just like Brendan said, the best case scenario is, a Big Ten title game, and say by some crazy chance they beat a Michigan or Ohio State, which I could confidently say I see that not possibly happening after what I witnessed today, no matter how much better Iowa gets. But I mean, this would, I think, disqualify them from a playoff unless, a bunch of the ranked teams just turn into the bizarro world with a ton of upsets the rest of the year.
Yeah, luckily, I mean, we do have quite a bit of season left, but like we said, it stings, but what can you do? We'll just, we got Rutgers next week, so we'll hopefully, I think all of us think that we're going to bounce back pretty strong there. So definitely appreciate you guys coming on. Obviously, we'll, hopefully be able to do this again and talk some Hawks, but definitely appreciate it. And I don't know, we'll catch you guys next time.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Take